I wish everyone present today a very good day. My name is Muhammad Azizul bin Ladin, and I represent our group of 5 authors. I am honored to be able to present our research entitled Modeling on Faculty of Science and Natural Resource Students' Readiness in Implementation of Bike Sharing System at Universiti Malaysia Sabah. Let us now proceed without further ado. Transportation systems in most cities are no longer sustainable due to lack of natural materials such as oil reserves, increasing number of deaths and injuries by motor vehicle accidents, as well as traffic congestion. According to Mustafa and Beckett, Malaysia's transportation sector accounts for 28% of total carbon dioxide emissions, with 85% coming from road transport, and the country is aiming for a 40% reduction in carbon dioxide emissions intensity. Constraining the cost of fuel is one of the mitigation strategies for reducing carbon dioxide emissions. However, this strategy does not completely resolve the issue. As a result, this paper aims to promote a sustainable mode of transportation through the use of a bike-sharing system. In the present circumstances, the majority of people use private vehicles as their primary mode of transportation for daily activities. Private vehicles do indeed provide numerous benefits to individuals by making travel more convenient. However, an excess of private vehicles will have a detrimental effect on traffic conditions. 3 significant issues that I can mention here are traffic congestion, a lack of parking spaces, and fuel consumption and pollution. The main purpose of this research is to develop a transportation system based on implementation of bike sharing system. The objectives in details are as follow. 1. To identify the factors that encouraging and obstructing UMS students to reduce the use of private vehicle by implementation of bike sharing system. 2. To analyze data regarding the readiness of UMS students on reducing the use of private vehicle and shift to bike sharing system. 3. To develop transport model of the UMS students' readiness to use bike sharing systems in terms of rental charging factor, per use and per hour, in Ringgit Malaysia. Let me first introduce to you how the bike sharing system started. The first public bicycle share system was launched in Amsterdam, Netherlands, in the 1960s, which is named as white bikes were distributed around the city for the public's use. However, the program was terminated as the bicycles were repetitively stolen and vandalized. The idea behind the second generation, which also known as coin deposit systems, is a response to the problem of theft and vandalism. Second generation schemes have been more formalized than the Amsterdam white bikes system. The scheme achieved a larger scale and lasted longer than first generation bike sharing, with a program called Bicyclen or City Bikes, which take place in Copenhagen in 1995. Bike sharing systems of the third generation, which know as smart car systems, have an improvement in design, where docking stations are operated by computer kiosks known as user technology interface. The fourth generation, which also known as demand-responsive multimodal systems, introduced bike sharing system that offer a flexible, accessible, and reliable mobility option. There are 5 benefits of bike sharing system. Firstly, it reduces fuel consumption and congestion. Next, save travel time. Thirdly, improved health. Fourth, benefits in individual financial savings, and lastly, reduce carbon dioxide emissions. However, there are also limitations of bike sharing system. From past research, I can state 3 limitations, which are hilly topography, as climbing hills is more strenuous than pedaling on flat terrain, and cycling downhill is dangerous. Next is weather. The likelihood of using bike shares and the duration of trips can be affected by colder weather, rain and excessive heat. Lastly, cycling safety. Cyclists can be categorized as unprotected road users, as personal protective equipment such as helmet are not provided when they are using bike sharing system. In stated preference survey, what the researcher will look into are the FSSA students' preferences regarding bike sharing system introduction, while analyzing the variables that affecting them in choosing this mode, and the range of price for bicycle renting. Next, linear regression system, linear relationship between a dependent variable y, percentage of private vehicle users shift to bike sharing system, and one or more independent variables x, rental prices and another factor. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the research flowchart. With a population of 2007, the targeted sample size will be around 325. Since our research will be using Google Form method, we have established 14 questions which are related to bike sharing system. Moving on to resultant discussion, the number of respondents is deducted from 327 to 160 students from FSSA due to the enforcement of movement control order. Google Forms is used as a service to distribute the questionnaire forms. Hence, some students have difficulties to access due to poor internet connection, especially those who stay at rural area. For this study, there are more female students had response to this survey compared to male students, which are 76.3% and 23.8% respectively. One of the possible reasons is that majority of FSSA students are female. Next, 97.5% of the respondents are from Malaysia. Most of the respondents are from third year. 57% of the respondents are using public transport, which is bus as a mode of transportation used in UMS, and 34% of the respondents has their own car or motorcycle to move inside and out of UMS, and the rest of respondents prefer to walk and use bicycle as mode of transportation. Besides, for the rating of service of public transport in UMS, it showed that the quality of public transport services in UMS is considered good in terms of comfortability, but students might still need to stand on bus during peak hours, and the rating for convenient and speed indicates that students are confusing with the waiting station and timetable for bus routine. In addition, it is found that the comfortability of private transport has the greatest influence on students to use private transport, which is 70.6% out of all the respondents from UMS FSSA students. Besides, factors that discourage students the most, which is 47% of them in using private transport, is due to inadequate parking availability in faculty, and especially during exam season. The agreeableness with the implementation of bike sharing system is carried out, and 67.5% of female respondents and 20.6% of male respondents are willing to implement bike sharing system at Faculty of Science and Natural Resources. Besides, it is found that the greatest percentage that motivates the students to use bike sharing system is reduced fuel consumption and congestion with 72.5%. This is because implementation of bike sharing system able to reduce the use of private vehicle and eventually reduce fuel consumption and congestion. Meanwhile, 65% of FSSA respondents not willing to use bike sharing system due to hilly topography from residential college to faculty. It is very difficult for a student to commuting back and forth by using a bicycle, where going up the hill may consume more strength. For the bicycle rental charging method, respondents are more willing to choose charge per use rather than charge per hour as bicycle rental charging, with 19.4% of male and 65% of female. From the figure, it shows that 40.6% of the respondents are willing to shift from private transport to bike sharing system by rental price of bike sharing per use, with rental price 1 ringgit and 50 cents per use. Simultaneously, 84.4% of the respondents are willing to shift from private transport to bike sharing system by rental price of bike sharing per hour, with rental price 1 ringgit and 50 cents per hour. The aggregated data are required for the analysis, and the appropriate data will be selected before proceeding to analysis. In this data analysis, there are several main independent variables can be analyzed, namely, the probability of private transport users to shift to bike sharing system based on rental charging per use. Second, the probability of private transport users to shift to bike sharing system based on rental charging per hour. Third, the probability of private transport users to shift to bike sharing system based on gender. Moreover, regression analysis is conducted for data from rental charging method of both charge per use and charge per entry. Both the figures show the comparison values between actual P and model P for willingness of private vehicle users to shift to public transport with rental charging method per use and per hour. Through the regression analysis, which is done by using Microsoft Excel, charge per use is having R-square value which is approaching to 1, while charge per hour is not. This shows that charge per use data are having stronger relationship and smaller distance between the data points. Next, both figures show the comparison values between actual P and model P for willingness of female and male private vehicle users to shift to bike sharing system. The result shows that the X and Y for female have a stronger relationship than male. From the analysis of result, 3 main objectives in this study and all of them have been successfully addressed. The main factor that motivates FSSA students to shift to bike sharing system is due to reduced fuel consumption and congestion. Meanwhile, the main factor that discourages FSSA students to use bike sharing system is due to hilly topography of UMS, as it is very difficult for a student to commuting back and forth by using a bicycle, where going up the hill may consume more strength. All the data related to the willingness of UMS students to shift from private vehicle to bike sharing system have been analyzed. The result shows that 88.1% of respondents, which is 141 out of 160 respondents, are ready to accept the implementation of bike sharing system. This also indicates that there is still improvement that had to be done in order to increase the willingness of engineering students to shift from private vehicle to public transport by implementation of parking charging system. 4 transportation model have been developed in the form of logistic model that can reflect the willingness of UMS students to shift from private vehicle to bike sharing system. It is proved that the decrease of bicycle rental charging price able to increase the shift percentage of UMS students from private vehicle to bike sharing system. For future recommendations, first, as researcher we need to discover an efficient method of distributing online questionnaire. Secondly, increase the number of respondents for better accuracy. Third, only select respondents who know how to ride a bicycle. Lastly, provide more variety of bicycle rental charging. That is all from me. Thank you very much for your attention.